everybody, welcome to another recap of Survivor South Pacific. Alright, so last time Papa Bear was voted off, he had to go to Redemption Island. And meanwhile, at Savai'i, Elise and Ozzy are getting a little cozy, swanging in the hammock. And Jim's kind of nervous, because he doesn't like that. He doesn't like when there's hookups. So he approaches Cochran, and he thinks that they should get rid of Elise, and Cochran's on board, even though she's freaking hot. Cochran, calm down. Alright, so at Oopaloo, Brandon takes Michaela aside and apologizes to her. And then he turns around and tells Edna that she's not in the place in the alliance that she thought she was. She's actually not in it. They're just being nice to her. Oy vey, new swimsuits. Oh, thank God. They must have been like skyrocketing in the post-production costs, like blurring out everyone's genitals, so it was time for the swimsuits. So at Redemption, they have to send 2 from each tribe, so Cochran and Jim went for Savai'i, and Brandon and Edna went for Oopaloo. And it was the showdown, Papa versus Christine, Papa Bear. So Brandon, before the face-off begins, apologizes to Christine, and she's just like, yeah, okay. And it's the old Connie game, you know, where you have to throw the ball in the fish tank, the little fish bowl, to win the goldfish, but instead it's little platforms and the balls are sandbags. So you had to land 10 of them. And Christine started out really strong. But then Papa Bear caught up, and it was tied all the way to the end, but Papa Bear could not land his 10th one before Christine did, so he had to throw his buff in the fire. Which makes me kind of sad, because I really like Papa Bear a lot. I like him a lot. So back at Oopaloo, Edna is starting to get on everyone's nerves. I think it's the laugh. It's the and the constant asking of questions. It gets tiresome, especially when there's no distractions other than the people that you're living with there. At Savai'i, Cochran and Dawn are strategizing. They're thinking about staging a little coup against Ozzy and, who was that? Elise. Sorry, I just like had a mental breakdown there. In case they don't win immunity. Speaking of immunity, it's time for the immunity and reward challenge. This week, it's chickens, and of course a clue to the hidden immunity idol. So it's the old milkmaid sandbag challenge. 3 people from each tribe are the milkmaids, and they keep progressively loading on more and more sand. But it's not just everybody gets the same weight. It's kind of a strategy thing, so you can either target people or, you know, distribute it evenly, whatever. So the milkmaids were Keith, Dawn, and Jim for Savai'i, and Brandon, Stacy, and Albert for Oopaloo. Brandon is freaking short. I had no idea. Watching him stand there, he's extremely short. And I think he actually has an advantage being short, because when your muscle is shorter, I think it can be thicker and it can be more powerful than somebody who's tall and has a long, lean muscle. So I thought he was definitely at an advantage. So Keith was out first, and then Albert was out second. But then Jim and Brandon were in this battle of the records. They both passed the 220 mark, which was the first new record. And then they both got 240 pounds loaded onto them, which they could not handle, but just putting it on there is a new record. So congratulations to them. So it actually came down to Dawn versus Stacy. And the thing was sliding down Stacy's back like halfway through, and she was totally using her butt to like hold it up. But then the same thing happened to Dawn, and Dawn was using her butt too. But apparently Dawn wasn't using her butt as long as Stacy's was, you know, as long as hers was down there. So I guess she had an advantage because her butt wasn't as tired. So Dawn wins for Savai'i with her butt. She wins by a butt. Alright, so they get the chickens and all that, and they're all like, arr, arr, arr. So back at Oopaloo, Edna is worried that she's the weakest link. And Stacy, she thinks she should stay because bones don't lift much. She doubts that Edna could have lifted 20 pounds. Whatever. Brandon talks to Coach because Stacy went and told him a rumor that there's another like sub-alliance. And Brandon is pretty much a loose cannon, and Coach totally is like, shh, shuts him down. He pulls out the little Caesar, you know, the dog training thing that, shh. Okay, so yeah, he doesn't need any loose cannons right before Tribal. So at Tribal, it's probesting time. Those probesting questions that everyone wants to know, but only Jeff can ask. Stacy did great in the challenge. That's why she thinks she should stay. And Probesty pulls out some group therapy time. Let's talk about what annoys you about other people. So of course the cowboy says that Albert snores. Brandon says that Edna's annoying. Her little things that she does is annoying. And then Edna says, it's kind of, you know, like a love triangle thing. And then Edna says Stacy's hard to get to know. But then Michaela says Brandon is a Hans. And it's like sins of the father kind of thing, like it's in the genes, which really is upsetting to Brandon because he just wants to be someone that God is proud of. And he starts crying like a freaking baby. Hello, did they not tell you when you tried out for the show there's no crying at Tribal Council? It makes Jeff uncomfortable. So he pulled himself together and they had the vote. And it turns out that Stacy is kind of hard to get to know because she was voted out. And when she walked out, Coach definitely tried to lean in for the hug or maybe a little peck on the cheek, but she was totally like, talk to the hand, Coach. And yeah. I'm excited to see what happens at Redemption next week because Stacy thinks she's going to be back. Next time, though, Coach is also known as Benjamin, and he's not too happy about that name. And we'll see what happens with that. And they have a really disgusting challenge. And being a vegetarian, I'm kind of offended by this, but they rip apart a cooked pig with their mouths. I don't know how that's going to go down, but I guess we'll have to wait and find out. Till next week, much love.